Well, thank you all for being here. Here we go. Hi.
I have to read first.
You guys are out of breath. What's going on over there?
May I sit?
Sure, of course.
I actually had a major surgery, so I need to sit.
Okay, no worries. What's your name?
My name is Lucky.
Nice to meet you.
I am very lucky to actually be here. I just found out from my sister-in-law yesterday. She said, Tony. I said, it's impossible, Tony and Surrey, but you are actually here.
Yes, I am.
Tony, thank you so much. Thank you. First of all, thank you for the movie. Thank you for the shares. Thank you for what you did with the girl, son. I'm the founder of an organization named Global Girl Power. And I had just mentioned to my sister-in-law, she said, we're gonna need tissues. I said, you know what, after doing so much work, to me the tears won't come. I have suffered with a lot of depression in my life, and last 6 months went through a major surgery, all the challenges, but then son's story came, and you know, we all saw what happened, the transformation,
Yes.
the way you touched her life, and the steps that you took immediately, and the family that you gave her, not just the 3 uncles, but the 2,500 others. And
Yes.
in my head, I was just thinking, if she just goes onto the chair and sees all the support, and exactly just what you did, she was on that chair, and the love that she saw, it's just beautiful. Thank you. My head just bows down to you. Thank you for doing that. And you know what? I can't believe that you did that.
You're fine. You're not through the interference, honey.
That experience just took me to a whole new level. One day I would love to learn from you, from Son. I would want to learn, I want to give that girl a hug one day. I'm actually coming to Orlando next month to my brother. I'm learning from John Maxwell. I'm coming to his training next month with my sister-in-law. And one day I would actually, it'll be my honor to learn from you. Actually want to learn from Son as well. Want to give her a hug one
Well,
day.
I would encourage you to reach out to Son, and with the initiative you're doing with girls, involve her in some way as a spokesperson or someone who's sharing, because you know, her example, I really believe in life. I used to do a program called You Have No Problems, and I would invite in human beings that were raped, who were maimed, who lost arms, who were blinded, who had, you know, a young man who was a lifeguard in Newport Beach, California, like blonde, 6'2", like gorgeous man that had every girl he could imagine. And he jumped into a wave one day and was instantly a quadriplegic, where he couldn't dress himself, couldn't go to the bathroom by himself, you can imagine. But I brought these people because the ones I picked were people that were so unbelievably happy in spite of losing family members to death, in spite of fleeing from a country where they're abused, in spite of being blinded. And the average person is stressed out and pissed off or worried or feeling sorry for themselves over nothing. If you can imagine as a child being forced to have sex with adults and being told that this is because this is what God wants, and being trapped in that from the time you're 5, 6 years old to you're 12 when she finally bolted, I mean, for her to overcome that and not hate every human being is quite a miracle. So yes, I can help people, but my larger piece is to have people help themselves. So I'd like to share with you and all of you right now an insight, and I know you've been sitting for a while, so I want to be respectful. I'd like to give you what I think, if you left with us today, and if you made this decision I'm going to share with you today, all your lives would change more than even watching the film by many times over. But I want to do, are you up for it? Are you guys too tired? That crickets or their energy there? When I go to, do events, 8,000, 10,000 people, or if I'm brought into a corporation or an environment, I gotta find out why people are really there. So I usually spend a few minutes going around the room, picking people and saying, what do you want? Why are you here? What are you after? And oftentimes I'll ask the audience, like, how many of you are here because you want to transform or change something? Everybody raise their hand. Say, okay, well, how many of you want to take your business to the next level? And I have a lot of business owners in my seminar, so like 70% of the room will raise their hand. And then I'll say, how many of you here because you want to transform your body, have more energy, lose weight, have some strength? And you got like 70% of the room. And I'll say, how many of you want to transform your relationship, have more passion, more aliveness? And more people do it. How many of you came because you want to make more money? And more people scream. I'm going, you greedy bastards. You want everything from this event. Right? But the reason I tell you this is because I then have to help that audience understand what they're really after. And I say to them, and I say it to you right now, think about what you want for your life. What do you really want? What's the next level? What's your desire? And what I tell people, what people really want, ultimately, is an even greater quality of life. We all want to have a magnificent life, an extraordinary life, an outstanding life. And so, what is a magnificent life? Well, everyone has a different view of that, right? Some people's idea of a magnificent, outstanding, extraordinary life is 3 beautiful children. Some people, for them, it's writing poetry, or having a magnificent garden, or building $1 billion business, or praying each day and connecting with God. We all have different ideas. So whatever your idea is, maybe it's time to get clear, like update your idea of what would an extraordinary life look for you today. Because often we made these decisions 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and look, let's be honest. Most of the time, what you envision, what you want, doesn't happen. You get disappointed, right? It doesn't work out. It's not as easy as we hoped it would be. Or somebody you care about let you down or betrayed you. And as a result of that, what most of us do is we start to limit ourselves because we don't want to get excited and be disappointed. So we no longer really invest ourselves 100%. And when you don't give 100%, there's no way on earth you're going to achieve what you want, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I tell people, figure out what you really want. What would life be like for you at the next level? And I don't care what stage of life you're in. You know, I meet people, kids that are really young, and I deal with people in their 80s and 90s. There's people, I have my seminars, I had a woman in my seminar that came to, I think, 9 of them in a row, and she was like 89 years old, and she was always in the front row. She had to fight people to get in there, and she'd be jumping and going for it, like all these things. And I was doing these big seminars, and she followed me from city to city like a Grateful Dead. I finally sat there, I met her and connected with her, and she said, you know, I've had such a good time. And I said, yes. I said, do you think I'm the Grateful Dead? What is this deal? She goes, no, every time I come, I get more, and I have so much momentum in my life. And so I wanted to do these events. And she goes, but I gotta ask you a question. How do you stay so up all the time? I mean, I've seen you and I know you're exhausted. I can hear your throat is hurting. I can see you know, certain points when the audience is not looking, you're touching your back. I know you're hurting. Like, how do you stay so up? And I said, well, part of it is I attend all these seminars, right? I'm teaching it, I'm embodying it, I'm living it, I'm experiencing it, right? So there are 2 skills that you need to master if you want to have an extraordinary life. And the first skill is the science of achievement. And notice I said science of achievement, meaning there are rules. If you align with those rules, you're going to succeed. If you ignore them, it's at your peril. You're going to have failure or challenge. So for example, I just wrote a book. I spent 4.5 years basically interviewing 50 of the smartest financial people in the world. Warren Buffett, Carl Icahn, the biggest names that exist on earth. And I began to realize that all of these people that started with nothing, they're all people that were not part of the Lucky Sperm Club. They did it on their own from scratch. There was a pattern of what they did to become totally financially free. And so I put it in this book, and then I used the book to feed 100 million people. I gave all the money away from the book because I grew up poor with no food, and I decided I fed 42 million people in my life, and I thought, I want to do more than I've ever done in a year than I've done my whole life, and I did it. By the way, I'm going to feed another 100 million just in the US this year, including some in Canada, and I'm going to feed 1 billion over the next 5 years. This idea of how do we take what we envision and make it real? Like your body. We all have our bodies that are unique biochemically. But come on, there's certain rules we all know you gotta obey, right? If you violate those, you're gonna have low energy and disease. If you align with those, you're gonna have incredible levels of energy. So achievement is a science, and I've spent most of my life figuring out the best strategy for getting the result you want in your body or in your relationship and your finances. And I'm obsessed by it, and I love it. And it helps people change, and people love it. But as important as the science of achievement is, There's a second skill you must have to have an extraordinary life. And the second skill I'm going to tell you sounds so basic because in our culture in North America and a good part of Europe and parts of Asia, very few parts of our culture value what I'm going to tell you. And it's why most people are in pain, and most people, even who succeed, are not really feeling fully alive. And that is the second master skill you gotta learn to master to have an amazing life, is even more important. And it's called the art of fulfillment. The art of fulfillment. Notice I didn't say the science of fulfillment. And the reason is there's not rules when it comes to being fulfilled, because every human being is fulfilled by different things. Does that make sense? Like the person right beside you might be your lover, best friend, your child, your same family, but you're gonna be fulfilled by different things. That's just the nature. If you wanna know what God loves or what the universe loves, go to the forest, right? What's great about BC is the forest is everywhere, right? And you can see it. What does God love? Total diversity. Nothing is the same. And no leaf is the same. Everything is different. And so to be fulfilled, we gotta find that different thing that fills us up. And if we don't get fulfilled, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Making everybody happy but yourself is a disaster. So I'll give you an example. I have a dear friend named Steve Wynn. And you may have heard of his name because he built most of Las Vegas. He built the Bellagio Hotel, Treasure Island, the Mirage, and now he has the Wynn Hotels and the Encore. And he has them in Asia as well. And he's a dear, dear friend. And one day he calls me up and he says, "Where are you in the world?" I said, "I'm in Sun Valley, Idaho, where I have a vacation home." And he also has one there. And he goes, "I'm in Sun Valley." He goes, "It's my birthday. How about you come see me?" I said, "I'd love to come see you." He said, "Hey, Tony, when you come, I gotta show you something." He said, "I've got this unbelievable painting that I have coveted for 17 years. I've wanted it so bad, and I've never been able to get it, and I just outbid everyone in the world at Sotheby's, and I bought myself for my birthday this painting." And I said, "How much was it?" He said, $82 million, right? So I was like, oh my God. I said, "I can't wait to see it." So I'm driving to his house. And what's the picture you think I have in my head? An $82 million painting? What is that? That's gotta be like some Renaissance thing. It's gotta be like the Mona Lisa, What is it gonna be? And I get to his house and I walk and he goes, "Check it out." And I look on his wall and he has this giant red square. Literally, it's a giant red square. If you know art, it's called a Rothko. And he paid $82 million. It's red with a little tinge of orange. That's the little variety they have. And he's like looking at it, like lit up like a Christmas tree, like, "Look!" And I'm like, "Steve, it's a red square. Give me $100 in 15 minutes. I can do this shit. I promise you." He didn't like that at all. He goes, "Tony, no, you don't understand. You don't know his story. He committed suicide." Well, I said, that must be his blood if it's $82 million. What the hell, right? But I tease him about it, but I actually respect him. Because I cannot get $82 million of value by looking at that thing. I can't get $100 worth of value, but he's so sophisticated. The brush strokes, the slight change in color, he lights him up like a Christmas tree. So pretty wild. So my point is, you gotta find what fulfills you. And some people say, "I'm too old, I only have so much time, I'm on the last chapter of my life." Look, if you're in your 70s or 80s or 90s in this room, I can tell you, I know people in 70s and 90s that are more alive than they ever have because they have so much wisdom now. They can do more with their pinky than they used to do rushing in their head. Many of them are comfortable in themselves for the first time now at 60 or 70 or 80 years old. They never were their whole life. But sometimes they give up because they think there's only so much time left. So I want to tell you that the most important tool of fulfillment, the most powerful way to make sure it shows up completely for you, is to understand that no matter what age you are, no matter what stage of your life you are, as long as you're projecting in this mind, you're gonna suffer. Because this human brain of ours is 2 million years old, and your brain is not designed to make you happy. It's designed to make you survive. So I don't care if you're 20 or 90, same brain. If you don't direct it, it's always looking for what's wrong. It's always producing stress or fear or concern inside of you because it's old software. It's software that was designed for survival 2 million years ago. And now there's no saber-toothed tiger for us to have to fight or flight. So now our brain is still there looking for problems. So it thinks, what are people thinking of me? It freaks out about it, like it's life and death, when it really doesn't matter, right? We only make it matter with our mind. Or do I have enough money? Where if you're in Canada and you are in the lowest income threshold, you're considered in poverty, you are the 1% of the world, not the 99%. The broke people in Canada, the people that are getting basic government assistance, are the 1% of the world, because half the planet lives on $2.50 a day, $900 a year. So I don't want you to live in poverty, but you gotta understand, suffering has nothing to do with money. You can make billions of dollars and suffer. I get calls from billionaires all the time. They call me in and say, will you help me do this thing with my division of my company, or turn this around, or do this, or do that? Because people always want something like Sienna. Remember Sienna? I have a weight problem. No, the real deep stuff she wasn't focused on, which was her daddy, right? So the same thing is true with us as human beings. We find things to worry about, and we make them really big, so we don't have to deal with the stuff that's a little more scary to us. But we can free ourselves from this if we realize what's wrong is always available, but so is what's right. And the way we gotta change it is, as corny as it sounds, is learning how to use our heart as the guiding device. And that sounds metaphorical, but in a few minutes, I'm gonna have us do an exercise to finish this up together. And I'm gonna show you how to get out of stress in 2 minutes and solve something that you've not solved for a long way and you've been putting off. And you'll see how to do it. I'm gonna demonstrate it. But let's start with the principle first. In fact, before I give you the principle, just in case you're not convinced that the art of fulfillment is the most important key, let me just tell you, an example. 2 years ago, we in America lost what I consider to be a national treasure, Robin Williams. I'm curious, how many of you sitting in this room right now, don't raise your hand if you liked Robin Williams. I'm gonna ask you, raise your hand and shout the word yes if you love Robin Williams. Keep your hand up so I can see the percentage in the room. How many of you loved Robin Williams?
Yeah.
Yes, you did. Keep your hand up and look around the room. Look at the percentage of people that have their hands up. It looks like to me about 98% of you. That means there's only 2% mean assholes in this room that hate Robin Williams. Do not be that. So here's my point. Was Robin Williams, was he a master of the science of achievement? Was he able to take ideas he envisioned and make them real when most people don't do it? You know the answer is yes. He wanted to make his own TV show. Millions of people want to make a TV show. Hundreds of thousands of people come to Hollywood every 6 months trying to get in the movie business. Most never do it. He made this thing happen. He was able to make it happen. Hang on a second, I got to decline something. Am I still with you?
Yes, Tony, you got it, bro.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, he wanted his own show, he did it. Be able to make that the #1 show. Some of you may be as ancient as me and remember Mork and Mindy. He did it. He wanted to have a magnificent family, one that totally loved him. He did it. He wanted to make more money than he could ever spend in a lifetime. He did it many times over. But he still wasn't fulfilled, so then he said, well, I'm gonna make movies. And that wasn't fulfilling, so he said, I'm gonna win an Academy Award. Then he said, I wanna win an Academy Award for not being funny, his primary skill. And then finally, he said, I want to make the whole world laugh, and he did. Now, I've been around the world this year in China, Beijing, in Tokyo, Japan, in Sydney, Australia, in Brazil, in Toronto, in LA, and everywhere I've gone, I've asked people, how many of you love this man? Not like love. Everywhere on earth, I see 95 to 98% of the people raising his hand. He literally had hundreds of millions of people that loved him. And he hung himself. Think about that. He hung himself. He killed himself in his own home, even though he's loved by hundreds of millions of people, had more money than he could spend, had a beautiful family, and had such a meaningful life. Leaving all of us loving him gone to forget us. How about his own children? How about his own wife? And they're scarred for this. They're scarred by this. How do you explain it? The answer is success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Making everyone else happy but yourself is the ultimate failure. And I'll give you a good little metaphor. If you ever get on an airplane, a public airplane, what's the first thing they do? The stewardess comes out, you put on your seatbelt, and then they say, if we have a problem with the oxygen, the life force that we need, these masks are gonna drop down. And what do they tell you? Take that mask and put it on your child first, right? No. They say, take that mask and first put it on yourself, then deal with your child. That sounds selfish as hell. The hell, am I let my child die when I put it on me? No, the reason is, if you don't take care of yourself, you're gonna pass out and your child's gonna die as well. We have to take care of this fulfillment in ourselves, because the achievement will never do it. No amount of money, no amount of praise, no amount of awards, no amount of kids, no amount of anything will ever make fulfillment last. What will? A decision. And that's why I came to visit you right now today. It wasn't just for Q&A, it's my mission for people to be freed from the pain. And even though it sounds like an exaggeration, hyperbole, I'm here to tell you today you could end it. Now how? You have to first understand that if you're an achiever in this room, I'm an achiever, I'm sure many of you are, meaning you're always finding a way to make things better, you're figuring out how to succeed, break through, you don't give up. If you're one of those people, you probably would never say you suffered. If you would have asked me a year and a half ago, do you suffer in your life? I would have laughed. It's suffering. Are you crazy? I have the greatest wife on the face of the planet. I adore her. I have 4 amazing kids. I have such amazing family and friends. I have a mission that takes me all over the earth. I have millions of people I love and that love me. I have economic freedom. I have the greatest life in the world. And I would not be exaggerating or lying or using hyperbole. It was inconsistent with my identity, who I see myself as the sufferer. Just like if you say to an achiever, are you fearful? Achiever's always, I'm not fearful. I'm just stressed, right? Stress is the achiever word for fear. If I follow your stress, it'll take me to your deepest fear, because we all have it inside, right? So how did I suffer? Well, think of it this way. I was in India this last summer, or a year and a half ago, I guess. And I was with a friend of mine, really smart man, and he was saying, how you talk about peak states, like you saw me put people in these energized states, because in an energized state, you can solve things. In a low energy state, your relationship is going to be low energy, it's going to be mean, it's going to be tough, you're going to have a hard time getting yourself to do anything. He said, what if you took high and low energy and called those 2 different states we could be in? States of suffering and beautiful states. Like happiness would be a beautiful state, right? What else is a beautiful state? You don't want to just be one state. Even happy, as good as it is, if you're happy all the time, your face hurts, right? We need variety. So if every moment of your life, you're either in a beautiful state or a suffering state, beautiful states would be happiness, joy, love, passion, creativity, awe, playfulness, fun, being a joker, right? Any of those things, gratitude, those are all beautiful states. And when you're in a beautiful state, life is beautiful, right? There's nothing, you're not stressed, you feel alive. And when you're in a beautiful state, how do you treat other people? And you're in a beautiful state, who wants to be around you? Everybody, right? On the other hand, there's also suffering states. And I would be in these states, but I wouldn't call it suffering, I just call it being normal. I would be frustrated, or a bit overwhelmed, or stressed out, or concerned, or worried, or pissed off. How many of you suffer going to those states? I'm watching you. Raise your hand and say aye if you really do in your mind. Say aye. And if you don't raise your hand, you lie about other shit too, don't you? Okay? So you gotta see the suffering or you won't do anything about it. And so if you wanna have the most magnificent life comes from the way you feel, not by what you have. There's no relationship between problems and happiness. You can have a million problems and be happy. You can have no problems and make up problems in your head and make yourself feel like crap. Because we're the only creatures on earth that just through thought can make ourselves angry or sad, happy or fearful, worried or excited, just by what goes on in here. So we gotta take control of this. So how do we do it? Decisions, not your conditions, are what create the quality of your life. How many of you can think of a decision you made in the last 5 or 10 years that if you would have made a different decision, you'd have a very different life today? Better or worse, I don't know, but better. If you know of a decision that would have changed your life if you made it differently, raise your hand and say aye, nice and loud.
Aye.
Awesome. So there are decisions you're making every day. If you ask me what's the most important decision in life a year and a half ago, I would have easily said the most important decision is who you love, who you spend time with, because who you love and who you spend time with shapes your life more than anything. You become like the people you spend time with, and especially your intimate lover or husband or wife. I would have never thought there'd be any decision more important than that, because in my life, without exaggeration, my wife has been the greatest gift of my entire life. But even with this beautiful wife, I would suffer and she would suffer. She wouldn't have called it, she would call it worrying about me, because I was on stage and I go 15 hours and my body gets thrashed and she'd be worried, and I don't want to be worried, and I feel bad that I make her be worried, and then we both suffer. It was just crazy. In the middle of all this beauty, we would have suffering. Here's the decision that I made that I invite you to make. The most important decision of your life. The simplistic description would be to end suffering. Now, how do I end suffering? My mind's still gonna do this. That's right, this is a 2 million-year-old brain, it's gonna keep doing it. You learn how to let go. You learn that, you know the old phrase, don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff? We make things so much bigger than they are. And the way you get rid of it is understanding where suffering comes from. There's 3 words that I want you to remember, that if you start to feel stressed, frustrated, worried, overwhelmed, lonely, depressed, I guarantee you one of these 3 or a combination of these 3 are triggering your mind to go into those lousy states. And if you recognize it, you can change it. The first thing you're doing is you're focused on loss. Loss. The human mind can make us feel like we're losing things that we never had in the first place, right? Oh, I lost this opportunity. It was never yours, right? I lost this money. It's not your money. Money's always circulating. I lost love. Love can't be lost. It comes from inside you. You use someone else as a trigger so you can make yourself feel those feelings. But it all comes from inside. But as long as you think someone did something, your husband, your wife, your kids, your teacher, your coworker, your employees, whatever, they did something, and now because they did that, oh my God, I'm gonna lose time, or I'm gonna lose money, or I'm gonna lose love, or I'm gonna lose respect, or I'm gonna lose, opportunities. You're gonna suffer. And you know what? It's amazing. We can make loss out of the littlest stuff and make it so big in our heads. It's wild. Or another one is loss, second word, less. If your brain thinks because she did this, because he did this, or because I did this, or because you didn't do this, or because I didn't do something, oh my God, now I'm gonna have less love. I'm gonna have less health. I'm gonna have less years of my life. I'm gonna have less joy. I'm gonna have less something. You'll suffer. And then the third one, the worst one is never. If you start telling yourself, if you start believing, oh my God, because I did that, I'll never have love again. Or I'll never be financially secure because I've tried everything. Or I'll never be able to lose weight. I've tried everything for years. When you tell yourself a story strongly enough, you believe it. It becomes self-fulfilling. I'll give you an example. Do you ever, as a kid, maybe you're eating your lunch or your dinner and your mom or dad says, could you get me the salt? And you're loving your meal and you don't want to get up. And so you know why? You simply say, I don't know where the salt is, because you don't know the exact GPS coordinates of this moment, right? And your mom or dad says, you know where it is. It's in the kitchen. Go get it. And you go, I don't know where the salt is. I don't know where the salt is. Go get the salt. I don't know where the salt is. Get it. It's on the second shelf. And so you walk in there and your head's going, I don't know where the salt is. I don't know where the salt is. You open the cupboard. You really do look. I don't know where this. It's not here. And your mom or dad says, it's on the second shelf. And you really look, but you keep thinking to yourself, I don't know where the salt is. I don't know where the salt is. And you don't see it. It's not here. They walk right beside you, they reach right in front of your face, and they go, what is this? Right? Who's had this experience where you have this kind of thing happen? Say, Well, did your eyes see the salt? Yes, your eyes saw the salt, but your mind wouldn't let you perceive it because it doesn't want to turn you into a liar with yourself. It's called a scotoma, a blind spot. You don't see what's right in front of you. Well, suffering makes us have blind spots where we really think we've lost, or we have less, or we'll have never, and it's the mind. It's not true. You gotta be able to break out. And the way you break out is to realize, to suffer, you have to obsess about yourself. You have to obsess about you've lost something because of them or because of you. You're gonna blame something. You wanna blame yourself or blame someone else or blame the government, but there's this sense of like, maybe I lost control. You never had control. God has control. The universe has control. You have influence. And the one thing you can influence, the most important thing in your life, if you want an extraordinary life, is what you feel. And the way you gotta do that is you gotta understand that the thoughts that are going through your head are not your thoughts. Do you really think you're the first person ever thought, I wanna kill that son of a bitch, right? You didn't do it because you didn't believe your thoughts. Where we get stressed is when we judge our thoughts. And here's what you gotta understand. I hate you, I love you, I'm not enough, I don't know what to do. Do you really think you're the first person to have all those thoughts that are stressing you out? Those thoughts have been around a million years. If I told you 100 years ago that I'll show you, that something's gonna happen where there's gonna be a device and you're gonna have this little box in your pocket and you're gonna be able to push a button and see someone on the other side of the earth and talk to them, and it's all happening to invisible waves that are running around coming in this box, you'd put me in a mental institution. If you said, we're gonna go to the moon and back, you would have called me a lunatic. That's where the term comes from. But I'm here to tell you that thoughts are waves of energy that have been around for millions of years, and the way you use your body determines which channel you tap into of thoughts. So for example, I'm gonna show you this in just a couple of moments if you'll stay with me. We're gonna do it so it's not intellectual and you feel it in your own body. But if you have a TV set and you turn the channel, one channel might be horror channel. Turn it again, now you're in a comedy channel. Now turn it again, now you're in romance. Turn it again, now you're in adventure. Well, the channel changer is your body. If I drop my shoulders, if I drop my head, if I started talking more like this, and I said, we're gonna spend the next 17 hours together. You're gonna wanna kill me, but I wanna kill me because the way you use your voice, your body, your movement determines which thoughts are gonna come into me. That's why when you're in low energy, it feels like, oh, the world's a mess. And when you're in love, what's wrong with life? Nothing, because it's such high energy, you think everything is beautiful. Nothing in life has changed, just the channel. So here's what we're gonna do. If you want to be free, if you want to feel the most joy in your whole life, it doesn't matter if you're 90 or if you're 10. You have to master this mind and make the heart be the one that runs you. You got to be able to notice that when you're having thoughts that make you feel stressed, you feel the tension and you let it go. And I'm going to show you how, but in essence, what I would do is a breathing pattern that slows it down, lets me separate it, and kind of let the thought go by and go, isn't that an interesting thought? Isn't that a crazy little thought going by? So I don't get embraced by it. And then you leave suffering by leaving loss, less, never, leaving obsessing about yourself by appreciating something. Appreciation is the cure, and there's always something wrong you can find, but there's always something beautiful you can appreciate. I know this sounds third grade, but when you do it, it liberates you. When you do it, joy enters your body because you let go of all the crazy stress that we do inside of our mind. I'll give you an example. When people get on flights and they come to my events, very often somebody say, you know what, I was coming here and I had the worst flight of my life. Why? Oh my God, we sat on the runway for 45 minutes. We were trapped on the runway and they wouldn't even let us out. It was the worst day of my life. Really, if that's the worst day of your life, you sat on a $100 million, $200 million device in a nice chair. What's stressful about sitting? But what happens is people get so upset about things. Yeah, and after the 45-minute wait, did you fly through the air like a bird, like a carpet ride, without having to do anything with your arms? Did you fly and watch a movie while you're doing it? You forget the miracle. I'll give you an example too. I have a great privilege today that I have a plane so I can fly across the earth into Australia, places like that. But most of my life I was flying commercially, obviously. And when you fly commercially in the recent years, you have the internet, which is so helpful because, I run 18 companies. By the way, do you want to talk about suffering? It's so easy to suffer because all I had to do to not be happy, I'd be happy and I'd lose it, is for people not to do what they're supposed to do. Now, I have 18 companies, 12 of them I actively manage, 1,200 employees amongst all those companies on 3 continents in 7 industries. Tell me something, and we're doing $5 billion in sales, it's pretty amazing. But tell me something, what are the chances that somebody is messing up right now something in one of those companies? What's the chance of somebody screwing something up? What would you say? Yell out the answer. What percentage chance that somebody's messing something up?